Hey there, and welcome to this Wednesday Word of Wisdom. Now, before I really get started, I want to ask you to subscribe. You can also follow me on social media. All of the links that you'll need for that are right here. I also put these in a podcast format and a blog. So, depending on if you'd rather watch a video or be able to listen on the go or even just read through the information, it is all right there available to you. All right, let's dive right in. See, we are pulled in many directions based on all of the demands that are in our lives, right? Some are from the world around us, the needs of other people, and some of them we simply put on ourselves. I started to talk a little bit about this last week because you know what? There are a whole bunch of really important skills that we can learn when it comes to using the time that we have available to us the most effectively. See, day to day, moment to moment, we have to decide what is going to happen. I choose how I'm going to spend my time or invest my time, or basically how I'm going to move through the time that I have available to me. I'm going to decide which demands that I'm going to live into. And it is not hard to see, especially this day and age, that some of the ways that we use our time are wasteful. I was talking to a group of friends about that actually this weekend. We were talking about priorities and what would it look like if we tracked our day in 15-minute increments. What would show up? Where would our priorities be? What would we see in our world that we might need to be doing differently based on how we are utilizing the limited amount of time that we have available? We often find ourselves in distraction-oriented, mind-numbing, even destructive uses of our time. So, you know what? Just start by thinking about this right now. What stops you from giving your best? Now, I have put together a huge list of time skills so that you can make an assessment of which skills you need to develop, which things you might need to improve to start to determine how to best start to move through the time that is available to you. Now, it starts with some simple things, right? Like automating tasks. With all the technology that we have, there are a lot of options for us to be able to automate tasks. There's apps for everything these days. Our calendars, our reminders, our checklists, our grocery lists. There are so many things that we can use to help us to stop having to think about some of those little decisions and put them into a more automated process. We also need to be able to learn how to ask for help. You know what? We can get stuck, we can get overwhelmed, and we need to be able to ask for help. See, some people think that if they ask for help, that somehow they're showing weakness or that they have to put out this image of being this tough, strong, capable person. And yet it's so untrue that asking for help requires strength, because there's courage in asking for help and sharing the load and being willing to be like, yep, go ahead. You can help me out with this, right? We need to start to look at things like creating increased clarity in the tasks that we have to do. Often we will set our to-do list or our tasks. And even if you go to the last video, I talked about how we schedule our time. But when we often write those lists out, we're often not very specific about the things that need to be done. And when we're confused or we don't have really clear direction, it sucks our time because we have to sit there and process and think about all of the steps to be more specific with the use of our time. And so then we stop moving forward because we kind of stay in this ambivalent place. And so when we have a really clear idea of what we need to do and how we need to go about doing that, then we can start to use our time much more effectively. Getting things done, right? So completing a task 100% is one of the things that many people don't do. You know what? We come up with a block or something and we just put it in a box, we put it aside, and we're like, I'll think about it later. But no, we need to figure out how do I move past those blocks and get the task done to 100% so I don't have to think about it anymore, so that it literally gets scratched off the list and I'm done with it.
Get your daily dose of motivation on the Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast. In Motivation with Michelle podcast, you'll get encouraging, uplifting, and life-changing wisdom that will transform your world at your fingertips, 24 hours a day. Get a fuller, deeper revelation of the tools you can implement to see incredible transformation in your life from Michelle Newstetter's powerful teachings. Tune in whenever you need to be edified, uplifted, or a dose of motivation, no matter where you are. Subscribe to Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast with Michelle Newstetter today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.
The next skill I want you to think about is how you manage your stress. The things that you do in order to take care of you as you have to start to work through what all these priorities are. You know, in our world, there is stress everywhere. From the moment that you wake up, there is stress. And you've got to be able to stay focused. You've got to be able to remove outside distractions, to work on not getting to that place of overwhelm. And in order to do that, we've got to work on our stress management skills. So this includes things like just our physical self-care, our diet, our water, our sleep, our exercise. It also includes things like taking breaks, time off, time away, so that we can find those spaces of refresh, those moments of downtime, real downtime, not just picking up your phone and scrolling through Facebook or reading the next meme or watching TikTok or jumping on to Netflix or something like that. Those are not effective uses of our downtime. We need to be doing something that actually moves us away from stress and allows us to refresh. So that's being able to sit quietly, to meditate, to get into nature, to go for a walk, to sit and breathe. These are all skills that help our brain to just refresh. And then we come back to whatever the task is with fresh eyes, and we are going to be way more productive, and we're going to use our time much more effectively. Routines, routines, routines. I can't say it enough. Our brain loves routines. Our brains thrive on them. And when we get into making good habits, good routines, it stops feeling like effort. It stops feeling like work to actually do the things that we need to do. And they are such an integral part of our ability to navigate time. Our system, whatever system we put in place, needs to consist of strict routines that we set for ourselves, like a good solid morning routine. And if you saw the video that I made about our evening routines, we talk about how your success today depends on how you finished your day yesterday. So we need to have effective bedtime routines. We need to have effective morning routines. In our morning routine, we need to be setting our focus for the day. We need to be journaling and writing and thinking about how I'm going to be moving through today. And then at the end of the day, reflecting on how well I did with that, right? It's going to help us to start to refine the systems that we need to have in place in order to be really productive, which is why we have to have discipline, right? If we're going to have routines, we have to have discipline in our lives, because discipline is the act of doing something, whether or not you like it, whether or not you feel like it. It takes discipline to get a task started. And you know what? But once you get going, then the task is going to come easier and easier and easier. It takes discipline to move through, to beat procrastination in our life, because so many times we will use that, we will come up with any kind of excuse not to follow through. But discipline is us saying, I don't care. I don't care if I don't feel like it. I'm going to do it anyway. Sort of the suck it up, princess, go and do it, right? And we have to be able to tell ourselves that, so that we will actually do the follow through. We also have to be kind of flexible, right? Because in life, nothing ever goes the way you plan it. You know, you have to be able to be flexible with your schedules, flexible with your routines, so that you can move, to mold, to shift when things go awry, because it's going to happen. If we're too rigid, we get additional stress in our lives when something goes wrong, when something doesn't go to plan. And then that can also immobilize us and stop us from getting any more steps done to moving towards what we need to be doing for ourselves. We need to figure out where our focus needs to be, right? I said in our journal, in our morning routine, we need to be writing out what my focus is for today, because we need to avoid multitasking. Multitasking is multi-failing, and it is one of the worst enemies to your ability to use your time effectively, because it's like the idea of that big locomotive trying to get its wheels turning. Every time you switch tasks, you're trying to get another train moving. And unfortunately, the way our brains work, unless you're doing something like watching TV while folding laundry, okay, that you can do. That's a multitasking that you can do. But you can't multitask between actually big activities that need to be done, because you're going to put your focus on one or the other. You're never actually doing them simultaneously. And every time we switch, it's that locomotive wheels trying to get them turning from stop again. And it takes a lot of energy to get back to that movement that we had going when we have a focus on one task at one time. And then we want to set ourselves up for success by setting ourselves with some goals, some things that we need to do. So if we go back to that scheduling thing, right, we plop in all of our big things in our month at a glance, we look at our week at a glance, and we look at our day. And within that, we can start to set ourselves some goals for the day, week, month, and do that same evaluating process of how well did I do with that? How well did I show up? And what things do I need to start doing, stop doing, shift or change? And what things did I do really well that I can keep? And then having our world organized, so papers where they need to be, lists, notes, is a really key tool to navigating time well. And you can organize yourself and your environment, like having a clean desk or a filing system or some way of taking notes where they're all in one place, not all over the place, and you're having to find things and you're losing things and you're having to look for things, because that is a huge time waster. Having to look for lost things is one of the biggest ways that we waste time, looking for our keys, looking for our notes, looking for our checklists, and not having them all in one place all at one time. Also, avoid perfectionism. One of my mentors often says to take massive, imperfect action. You know what? Set yourself up some clear deadlines, but just take action. Start to step in, get the things done, whether or not you're doing it perfect. We can waste so much time planning, overdoing things, redoing things because we want them to be perfect. Get them done. Sometimes, depends on what it is, obviously. There's things that need to be done well, but sometimes done is good enough, and we need to be willing to allow ourselves to just get something done, because you know what? We will perfect things on the road as we are setting ourselves additional goals and improving and getting better. We will start to perfect those things, because we'll go back, either that or they won't be important anymore, and we will let it go entirely. But get it done. Just get it done. You know, when we look at our world, there's so many of us who at the end of the day are feeling blah because we're not as productive as we would like to have been. We just don't feel like we're really doing anything of any importance. we're not feeling accomplished, we're not feeling successful, we're not feeling good about the place where we are in our world. And when we start to learn how to move through time differently, how to effectively adapt these skills into our world, we can start to exercise a greater degree of control over the time that we spend, invest, use for any specific activity. And we can really increase our effectiveness and our productivity and feel really good at the end of the day, feeling like, man, that was a really good day. And ideally, that is what I want for you. I want for you to get to the end of the day feeling like that was a good day. And it takes strategically working on these skills that are going to help you move through your time differently. So like I said, I want you to write down each of the skills that I presented here. Ask yourself, how good am I at this skill? And what area do I want to focus on improving so that I start to move through time better, more efficiently, more effectively? Have yourself a great rest of your day. I am glad you joined me, and I hope this added value to you. Feel free to comment, question. I want to be able to add as much value to you as I can. And the best way for me to do that is through your questions, through your comments. All right. Thank you again for joining me, and have a wonderful day.
Is there so much turmoil in your thinking that it feels like your mind is an actual battleground? You have trouble falling asleep because it just won't shut off? Or you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep because of all the thoughts? Or maybe you notice that you worry all the time, constantly thinking about the worst case scenario or all of the what ifs that could happen. And probably not getting the results that you would like in life, feeling like something needs to change. Well, that makes sense, because how we think determines whether we win or lose in life.
In the program, De-Stress and Refresh, Michelle Newsetter will walk you through how to get back in control, or maybe get control for the first time of our thoughts, our emotions, and the results we are getting in our lives. If you want tomorrow to be different than today, you're going to have to do something today to make tomorrow different. Otherwise, you don't have a new tomorrow, you simply have a longer today. Don't miss out. Go to extremexcellence.ca and click De-Stress and Refresh.
To get into this revolutionary program, plus for a limited time, if you complete this program and give your testimonial, Michelle will even refund you 50% of your enrollment fee. What do you have to lose? Space is limited. Secure your spot today.